Welcome to If the Public Only Knew, the show that pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to build and lead a business. Host Gary Cinderbrandt sits down with some of today's most dynamic CEOs, founders, and leaders to dig into their origin stories, hard-earned lessons, and the missteps that nearly derailed it all. These are unfiltered, no-hype conversations designed to inspire, challenge, and fuel your own journey. Now here's your host, Gary Cinderbrandt.
Welcome back to If the Public Only Knew. My guest today is Bryan Clayton. As I was going through Bryan's backstory, Steve Jobs came to mind. Now, Steve Jobs built technology. Bryan's background is in lawn care. So what could these two possibly have in common? Well, the way Steve Jobs looked at the world was pretty straightforward. Figure out what the problem is, learn all you can about it, and then build something to solve it. Bryan, probably unbeknownst to him at the first time he cut a lawn at 15, figured out a problem and came up with a completely cool and elegant way to solve it using technology. So as you learn more about what Bryan did, you'll have two observations. Why didn't I think of that? And that's a great idea. Bryan, welcome to the podcast. I'm really happy to have you.
Gary, thanks for having me on. And wow, what a great introduction. I've never been called the Steve Jobs of grass cutting, but I will take it, man. I love that. I love that.
Well, as I said before, when we were chatting, you thought about it the exact same way. Define the problem, learn everything you can about the problem, and then
that's how Steve thought too. You know, he always advocated for let's start with the human and build the systems to that.
Exactly.
And
right.
It sounds obvious, but that's not how we typically approach these things. So I appreciate that.
No, not at all. All right, so I want to go back. You grew up in a military family. Did you move around a lot?
Yeah, growing up, we moved every 3 or 4 years. My brother caught most of that, and I caught the tail end of it. But when my dad retired, he didn't give up the military ethos. And luckily, I was living in a military household, and he got tired of watching me play too much Nintendo. I said, hey, get off of your butt. The neighbor needs their grass cut. And he made me go mow the neighbor's yard. And I'm glad he did that.
Very cool. What branch of the military was your dad in?
He was in the Army.
Okay.
Major
Excellent.
in the Army.
Excellent. Did you have any inclination to go into the service, or was that just not something you were interested in?
I actually did. So I was born in Germany on a military base, and so grew up in Germany and during the Cold War. And then my dad retired when I was about 13 or 14. And I thought about going into the military, particularly after 9/11. I was really thinking about it. But my dad kind of talked me out of it. He said, and at the time I had a little lawn mowing. I had my little business going. I was probably 21 years old and had 2 or 3 employees and was doing pretty good doing it. And he said, no, why don't you see how far you can take this little small business you have? And so that was probably also good advice.
Okay. So at 15, you figured out you can make a few bucks mowing a lawn. Did that kind of fund your fun through high school? Did that help you make money as you were going through high school?
Yeah, it was very much, it's kind of funny when you're starting a small business, why you do it evolves. And in the early days, it was, I needed a pair of soccer cleats, and my dad wanted to buy the $20 soccer cleats, and I wanted the $100 soccer cleats. Sure. And so he made me go mow the neighbor's yard to get the money I needed to buy them. And that clicked, like a light bulb went off. And I thought, man, I'll just do more of this. This is actually pretty amazing. I don't have to worry about hassling my folks for cash anymore. And I passed out a bunch of flyers, got a dozen or so customers, and mowed grass all through high school, after soccer practice, on nights and on the weekends. And then went to business school and mowed grass all day, went to school at night. That took like 7 years. And as I was going through business school, I was growing my little small business. And when I graduated, I had to make a choice, a decision. I was like, okay, I don't really want to be a lawn guy. Like, it's not very glamorous. And I went to college and got a degree, but man, maybe this could be my lane. Maybe I could build a real company in this industry. And so I took what I learned in business school and applied it to my little small business, made a business plan, and then started grinding on it. And after about 15-year period of time, ended up building a decent sized little small business.
So when you went in, you were building that initial business. I note, coming out of school, you grew it. It was what, Peachtree Inc?
That's right. Yeah. And it's still going today.
Okay. So how did you build it and scale it and with 100 plus employees and still keep it viable? How did that business grow? Was it all at once? Did you have some big contracts? What happened there more on the conventional or traditional side of building that physical business?
it was started off with just me and a push mower, and eventually got to 90 crews going out every day, 90 trucks going out every day, around 8 figures in sales, and about 150 people when it was acquired. And so those 2 points was very much almost like a video game, working one level at a time, focusing all of my efforts on just getting through that level, however I thought about that level, and not worrying about, Bowser when I was on level 2 or 3. And so that's how it unfolded, whether it would be like my first hire would be like probably level 1, because the first time you hire your first employee, you're essentially doubling your business in one decision. It's probably the only time in the business, like small business journey, where you double your business in one swoop. But when you're hiring your first employee, you kind of are. So that might have been level 1. And then fast forward, maybe level 2 or 3 might have been like my first million in sales. And then now I'm like less in it and more on it. And then trying to think through that and building systems and processes. And then probably maybe metaphorically level 6 or 7 might have been like the epiphany I had, where I realized I wasn't in the landscaping business at all. I was actually in the sales business, and I needed to focus 90% of my time on crafting our sales system and building predictable revenue through a sales process. And that took like 3 or 4 years. And then I guess it was maybe metaphorically level 9 or 10, getting to 10 million in sales. I realized I was actually in the people business. I was in that everything was a byproduct of the people that were in the company, helping them get where they were trying to go in life, growing them as people, growing them as leaders. And it was a very different business than where I started just cutting grass. I ended up being like in the people development business. You wouldn't think that when you're first starting mowing yards, but that's where I ended up.
Did your margins scale with your revenue?
Yeah, as time went on, we started refocusing the business around larger contracts. So started off just, we would mow anybody's yard, anytime, anywhere. And then as time went on, we merged the business from a residential-based service clientele to commercial. So restaurants, office parks, apartment buildings, neighborhood entrances, things like that. And these would be, sometimes 6-figure, 7-figure contracts, multi-year contracts. And so with that scale of volume of revenue, you can build infrastructure around that and build predictability around that. And ultimately, that's what made the business viable for acquisition, because that's what an acquiring company is looking for, is that predictable revenue. And so ultimately, when we sold the company, it was 100% commercial. And but people still called us every day wanting residential services. And that's what inspired me for my second company, was that I was kind of referring people to smaller operators, kind of like what I used to be. And in a sense, we were kind of a referral network almost. And so when I started GreenPal, I knew the problem and solution would work, because I was kind of already doing it. And so I think, solving my own problem is kind of what helped me get to where I am today with building GreenPal, which is kind of the Uber for lawn care.
Back up just a little bit. You went from, having a business that was physically demanding to expanding again, selling. You've got management issues, you got HR issues you have to deal with, right? You've got employee issues you have to deal with, all the stuff of running a big business. So at some point, you are basically acting as the senior leader for a fairly diverse group of people that all have to be managed to maintain the quality of your product. You recognize that it's scalable, right?
Totally.
At what point did you think to yourself, what happened to my life? Because I know what that takes running that kind of business. It's not 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. It's 24/7 plus holidays.
Nobody teaches us how to do it.
Nope, they don't. You figure it out on your own. School of hard knocks. So at what point did you realize that A, your business was kind of positioned for acquisition, and B, let that little tickle in the back of your mind of, I can solve these problems a lot more efficiently with something like a GreenPal than continuing what you were doing initially with Peachtree? I don't think it happened overnight. How did that thought process evolve?
Yeah, to answer your question, it was never a 3, 4, 5 day a week thing. It was always a 7 day a week thing, and it's very much a full contact sport. And the idea of work-life balance has always been one that I've never known. And because if you want to build a small business into a decent sized business, you're really doing 3 things at once all the time, and you're trying to make time for each of 3, what I call 3 buckets. And so you're working in the business. You're just making sure bills are getting paid, customers getting taken care of, payroll's happening. You're all over everything all the time. You're very much in the business. And then the second thing is you're working on the business. You're building the systems, processes, routines, the strategies, and you're setting aside time to work on the business, hopefully more than in the business. And then the third thing is you're working on yourself. You are reading books about leadership, management, strategy. Maybe it's, business financing, legal, whatever it is that's block and tackling for whatever stage of the game you are in the business. And it's a full contact 7-day a week thing, and you're all in it. And it's like your heart and soul is in it. And I didn't realize it, but going through that and doing all of that, it was like fulfilling and rewarding to me, like a deep human level. Like I was growing and evolving and getting fulfillment from that. And I guess it was like year 13 that I had gotten to the business to a point of stability, where it wasn't like challenging me in that way anymore. And so then like I became unfulfilled by it, and it was very discontenting. And so I had to like think to myself, okay, well, maybe I want to start another company, but I don't know what could it be. And so I need to create the space for that. And so maybe it's time to explore an exit for this company. And so from the moment I had that notion to getting that deal done, probably a little over 2 years. And so it took a lot of work to get the business ready to sell, a lot of reverse engineering.
So it was like a dog chases car. You caught the car.
Totally. It was.
Now what?
Yeah, totally. It was very much a push and not a pull. It was very much it was an intentional thing that I had to make happen. It wasn't like somebody was knocking on my door to buy my business.
Did you know GreenPal was out there when you pushed the business to get sold?
I had the idea in the back of my head, but it was kind of like always one of those, somebody should do this. Wouldn't it be nice if? Yeah. We always say they should make this movie.
Someone should invent this, right?
Yeah, they should come out with, or they should do this. Like it was always in that kind of bucket in my head. Like they should make an app that does all of this stuff that I have spent 15 years of my life doing.
So when you came out, I assume you had a few bucks to do it. You had a few people to go in with you. You mentioned, let's do it with an app, but it seems like the first thing you did was make it for a full-size computer as a web-based instead of something that would work on the phone. Walk me through that. Walk me through that realization that you had to kind of tear down the initial idea and rebuild.
It was one that I knew would work because, like I mentioned, I was doing it in a kind of hand crank analog sense for years, running my landscaping company. People would call in. We would say, hey, they would say, hey, come mow my yard. I saw your truck at McDonald's mowing their yard. And we would say, hey, no, we don't do that, but here's 5 other people that do. And so we were connecting people. So I knew it would work because I knew there was this weird thing where it was hard for consumers who wanted a basic service done to find the best fit small providers of that service. And so I knew that technology could make that run a lot smoother. So I had that confidence. I did not know the first thing about building a tech product. And that was a big, it was naivete as an asset. It was good that I did not know what I did not know, because had I known how challenging it was going to be, I never would have done it. And so it was very much, I was naive. My co-founder, he was too. And we thought we would just pay somebody to build the app, and we would do the marketing and operating of it, and we would just be off and going. And so we tried to do that, and we took some of our money and spent a couple $100,000 paying a development agency to build the idea we had in our heads that you should be able to push a button, quickly get prices, and hire somebody, and they come out and do it. And spent a year doing that, put that out there, and that was like a total failure, total bomb. It just did not work. It was clunky, hard to use. Everybody hated it. And so we had to come to the realization that if we were going to be in the tech business, we were going to have to learn how to build software, learn how to build a freaking website, learn how to build a mobile app. And so we went to YouTube University, took every online course we could get, and started literally teaching ourselves how to code.
Okay.
And so we rebuilt the whole thing from scratch. We did hustle up about 20 or 30 customers to use the first version. And so we were able to kind of over the shoulder, kitchen counter, kitchen table, Starbucks, meet with these people and watch them use this terrible app that we had, and figure out all of the assumptions that we had that were wrong, all of the things that they wish it would do that it didn't do, and all of the things they were confused by, and build the second version in a much better footing and one that was baked in user feedback.
Were you hiring at that point? Were you hiring real live coders, UI, UX?
Still just us. Just us. Because we didn't have the money, and because I all of the proceeds from my first business. So rewinding a little bit, My first company, when I had sold it, it put me in a position where I didn't have to work anymore. And that was nice because then I could just do whatever it was I wanted to do. But I was terrified that I was going to like make some stupid decisions and lose it all. And like, it's a weird thing that happens when you go through that. Like you get paranoid. And the guy that bought the business was a super wealthy dude, like multiple nine figures. And he like face to face told me, he said, I can't tell you how many times I closed one of these deals and the guy or gal that I bought the business from is broke again in 2 years.
Yeah.
And he said, there's going to be a lot of business deals that you're going to come across that are going to like, that they're just going to come across your plate now that you have some money. And he said, it's a lot easier to make $1 million than it is to hold on to $1 million. And so that stuck with me. And so like when I sold the business, I locked everything down in like real estate investments and really illiquid investments. And so I was kind of poor on paper all over again, and which was good because it made me humble. And it was really kind of the mindset I needed when I started GreenPal, because I was very much starting from scratch all over again. And
Smart.
I needed that mindset. And so it was exactly what I needed at that time. And so I had a little bit of money set aside to put towards it, a few $100,000, but not a lot. And so as we went through the first year, 1, 2, 3, 4, like I didn't pay myself a salary. My co-founder still worked his day job. Like he worked at Dell Computer and as a salesperson and worked nights and weekends on the project. So it was us doing all of the work. And then as we got, our first 100 customers, we turned that into 500. Then we turned that into 1,000 customers. Now we got 1,000 paying customers. Now we're making a little bit of money. And a lot of times as a founder, your job is like, it doesn't matter what type of small business, large business, your job is the one of capital allocator, which means a little bit of money comes in and you put money back out to work. And I knew exactly, almost like a battlefield hospital tent, I knew exactly where to triage the money. Because I knew because we were doing everything. And I knew, I was like, man, we need to hire more developer hours, or we need more designer hours. So going through this exercise of doing all the work ourselves really made the thinking and strategy very crystal clear as to where we needed to put money to work, so we didn't waste any money. And that's how we got through the first 3 or 4 years. And it was probably year 5 or 6 before we paid ourselves a salary. And now the team's Go ahead.
You bootstrapped the whole way. You weren't interested in any outside capital.
Well,
at all?
So I was, when I was starting this business, when I started GreenPal, I was like a blue collar entrepreneur. I was a blue collar like business operator. I had no idea how the tech business worked, and so I was consuming every podcast I could get my hands on, and reading TechCrunch, and like I even flew out to TechCrunch conference one time to like just figure out how they speak, how these people think, and how this works. And the purveying like advice at the time was that you have to go raise funding to start a tech company, because back then it was $5 million just to get in the game. You needed full-time Android developer, full-time iOS developer, full-time web developer, a full-time backend guy or gal. You needed a full-time designer. Like you needed like a team of 5 or 6 that each made $200,000. You needed $1 million a year to burn minimum just to even get in the game. And so that was the thinking. And so that's what we tried to do. Like coming out of Nashville, Tennessee, it's not like a hotbed of consumer tech success stories. And so there's not a lot of investor base for that type of idea. But I went to what few investors there were in the area. And then I flew to every major city in the country, like the top 5 that have an investor pool of these types of ideas, and spent like 3 months just pitching my butt off, like trying to beg people to invest in this idea, and like begging for $20,000, $50,000, if I was lucky, $100,000 check. And I guess it was like month 2 or 3, I was just like, this is stupid. I just need to build something that makes $50,000 a day. And not even worry about this. And like, and I know that we can, and it just take a little longer than I thought, but I know we can. And that's what we did. We just built something that made a seed round every month, rather than taking a year trying to build something that investors wanted. Now, I'm not anti venture capital. You look on your phone, On the home screen, odds are all of the little icons on that screen are going to be venture backed. So when it works, it's a beautiful thing. But in my experience and really in my space, venture capital has kind of ruined more of these ideas than help create.
You're in a great spot because, the VC goes through, there's pre-seed or pre-revenue, there's seed, A, B, C rounds, whatever you want to look at. But when you start to pull your numbers apart, for instance, I'm pretty certain you've got a computation somewhere on your customer acquisition cost, on your CAC, on the long-term value of an individual customer, which is another thing they look at. Basically, my guess would be that those numbers are way beyond what most VCs are looking for, probably be in that second stage in private equity. So depending upon how you would allocate additional capital, you're kind of in the driver's seat. The other cool thing is you talked about your struggles to build the initial app. You basically built it with sweat. It was sweat equity. But now with AI, with the app you just described, you could have it up and running probably in a day or two using vibe coding, because some of the AI coding out there is phenomenal. I built an app to solve a long-term problem in financial services, and I'm wrestling right now with, do I bootstrap or do I get some outside investors? I haven't decided yet because the thing's ready to go, and I built it myself with two really strong tech guys who loved the project and helped. But that would have cost me $5 million 5 years ago. Same as you discussed, right? But it's real and it's up and running. So your ability to expand, from my perspective, is much more of a go-to-market issue because you can scale your tech at this point for so much less money than you ever had before without adding a lot of fixed cost. Because I imagine that most of your fixed costs right now are pretty identifiable. You don't take on any additional cost when you add another company, right?
That's one of the tech is hard for a lot of reasons, but that one of the most beautiful things about it is once you have your fixed costs taken care of, a lot of the marginal additions in your customer base are at a higher margin. And so for us, we serve 300,000 people every week. We could easily do 1 million with our current infrastructure. And to your point, the user acquisition, the distribution is the hardest part. And that was one of the big smacks in the face that I got building GreenPal was realizing that the building of it is the easy part. The hard part is going out and getting people to use it, connecting it with people who need it when they need it. It's kind of like, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm not a musician, but we get about, 100 people a week moving here, many of them thinking they're going to be the next big country music singer or star. And what they think is like, okay, if I can just learn how to write music, I'll be good. And then they realize, okay, well, now I got to learn how to perform music and write music. And then I got to learn how to be a good live performer. And then I got to learn how to sing and play guitar at the same time. And they think if they learn these things and do these things and execute and deliver on these things, that they will be successful. And then they realize that none of that matters, that what really matters is getting 100 people to show up at a show.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then you'll never get a record deal. You'll never make it. You'll never be anything. And founding a tech startup is really just like that.
Yeah.
You think that, okay, if I could just code up a prototype and it works, I'll be good. But really it's just, can I get 100 people to put a credit card number down? Do they care enough about it? Like when we started chatting about Steve Jobs being obsessed with the customer and starting with the customer's need, do people care enough about it to pay for it? And do they vote with their wallet? And will they? And really, all that matters is getting 100 people to pay for it, and that's much harder than building it.
And the bar that most people who build tech for tech's sake miss is, what problem are you solving that is unique, that is a pain point for a large enough cohort of people that they're going to do something about it? They are going to take the credit card out. If you have a house and you have a lawn, there's an unmet issue there. So to me, it takes this extremely simplistic problem and you spun some tech around it, and the human interaction that you have, not just with the end line customer, but one of the other things I also noticed is, let's say that I'm you and I realize, I want to build a landscaping business and I'm in a community and I know I can put a good product out there, but nobody knows who the hell I am. I find you help me promote my business. You make sure I'm doing the right thing. My guess is you probably coach some of your vendors as well in how to expand their business, because that's good for you. And all of a sudden you show me going from just pushing one mower to all of a sudden I'm servicing 500 households and I'm making money and I can build that similar nugget underneath almost like you did with Peachtree. But now I've got somebody that's experienced, they can get business to me, they can kind of coach me in the whole thing. So I think the social implications of what you're doing are extraordinary. In promoting small business owners, you say 1 million. I don't know how many households have grass, and why would anybody do anything but? If you think about it, and again, and I want you to comment on this because this is a common problem with independent landscapers getting paid. You solve that for them, so I imagine you've got pretty good loyalty.
Yeah, it's funny. You really nailed it because what we learned was, and I kind of knew this in the back of my head, we had to start with the supplier first and build something that really helps improve their life and changes their life. And only when we meet that threshold do we have a value proposition for consumers. So we had to start with the guy or gal that's literally mowing your yard, and how do we make their life better? And the ways we do that are, well, we take care of the marketing for them. We help them get 10 new customers a day if they want it. We take care of the route automation for them. We, in terms of going from stop to stop, the CRM, the marketing automation, and then like you mentioned, the collection of your accounts payable, of your accounts receivable, getting paid for the work that you do is like the biggest pain point of running any kind of service-based business. It's like you have to do the service, that's 50% of your job, and then the other 50% is getting paid for what you just did. It's insane, but that's just the way that these types of businesses work. And so that's what GreenPal does for them. It helps them get paid within 24 hours of all of the jobs they're doing. And so helping them go from 10 customers to 100 in 6 months is what we're built to do. And really it's why I do what I do. We have so many stories of, because, I found GreenPal, my business, I wasn't able to make my mortgage payment. Now I'm buying a new mower and buying a brand new truck and putting a kid through college. It's like helping these people get where they're trying to go. It feels good and it gives us purpose. And then if you can get that right, the consumer experience, the customer side of it takes care of itself.
Well, you just mentioned something else, and you may have thought of this already, but to me, it would be a natural for an expanding business. If I'm a 1 or 2 man operation, it's credit checks and, can I buy this or buy that? But this business requires some CapEx. I mean, you've got to have the goods. Have you looked at using your collective buying power among all your vendors to negotiate deals on their behalf and act as a distributor for the products that you've already vetted that they're going to need to help them expand? Have you guys looked at that?
There's all kinds of really interesting things that we've got on the roadmap, and that's one of them that we've got one toe in the water on. So the way that we're easing our way in to this exact same thing is we partner with Stripe, who helps process all of the financial flows for financing, small business financing. So and it's tied to their financial performance of their business. So they have a proven track record. We know they made, $500,000 last year. And so they're good for a $50,000 line of credit against equipment. And Stripe powers that, and GreenPal takes advantage of the rev share. That's one way that we are starting to go take the platform in that direction. And then another is a program we call the Partners Program, where we have a team member. All they do is reach out to people that are vendors in the landscaping management industry. And it could be fertilizers, it could be chemicals, it could be fuel cards, insurance, you name it, all of the 500 things that a landscaper needs to buy to run a landscaping business. And we try to negotiate discounts. And we don't make money off of it yet, but it's kind of like a effort of like goodwill to help help get more stickiness and create more loyalty to the platform, and also kind of help build some relationships in the industry. And maybe one day we'll be able to monetize that as well.
I mean, I think there's got to be, I don't know what a riding mower costs or, that much about it, but
it would knock your socks off.
I imagine the margins are pretty good. And
totally. And if we can help save vendors money on buying what it is they need and getting them the right stuff, then that's a win-win.
And another thing I would think about, just like with automobiles, extended warranty services on their gear. I mean, that's your world. You know it completely. There's a lot of different ways because you've got literally different rivers of commerce flowing past, and it's all static. Last question. Talk to me about the demographics of your vendors. Are they older? Are they younger? Is it an aging population? Is it something you looked at? What are the new guys coming in? What are they trying to do? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the demographics on both sides of the equation, when I started, I thought the consumer base was going to be like my customers when I first got started was going to be like $1 million plus homes, high-end affluent communities. But actually, it's working class people. It's people that just want a basic lawn mowing that, they make, 50, 60, 70K a year, and they don't want to spend a bunch of money, and they can't get a landscaper to call them back. And that's where we come in. That's where GreenPal comes in. And so that was a surprise to me. On the
How about the vendors themselves? How about the landscapers themselves? Have they been in business a long time? What does that age breakdown look like? In other words, what's the next generation of GreenPal vendors look like for you?
Yeah, they are single, what we call Peter in a pickup, Chuck in a truck, Molly in a mower. We have a lot of female-led operators, and you wouldn't think that. And they are some of the, I guess, per capita highest performing operators we have on the platform. And it's usually one person, maybe a helper, but not much bigger than that, because this is the person that maybe they worked at a landscaping company, maybe they ran a crew, and they always wanted to be in business for themselves. And they were maybe they were making 15, 20 bucks an hour working for a landscaping company, but now they can run their own business and make $100 an hour. And GreenPal abstracts a lot of the unknowns away to where it's like, okay, you just plug in, you bid on work, you get the jobs you want, and then you just go knock them out, and then everything else is handled for you. And so we like to stay into that kind of owner operator, small business owner, proprietor demographic. And that makes up probably 70, 80%. And then we do have maybe 5, 10% big businesses that use it. So the way they use it is they're sending out 10, 12 crews every day, but they earmark 1 or 2 crews that all they do is GreenPal work. And we have several operators that are doing over $1 million a year on top of the GreenPal platform, pushing through the platform. And they do a great job, but it's not built for them. They have figured out a way to make it work for them. The person it's built for is your owner operator, your sole proprietor.
So what's next? I mean, you've got basically a SaaS-based business. You've built a defensible moat because you were the first mover in that business. You've got some name recognition out there. You've got unlimited market and no competitors in sight.
It is unlimited. It is unlimited market, and it's almost like it's a $99 billion industry, and we power like a drop in the bucket of it. And so that's the way we think of it. Is we're always asked and kind of almost kind of like not distracted, but it is kind of idealistic to think maybe we could apply this to other industries. We could say, okay, GreenPal could also work for pool service or home painting or roofing or pressure washing. But the reality is that we have so much white space ahead of us that we just need to focus on. Yeah, we need to focus on this one thing.
That's a typical founder mistake.
Focus on this one thing. Just be the best in the world at getting a guy or gal to come mow your yard for a good price every week or every 2 weeks. And because there's so much more of that to do, that we're going to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper in the landscaping business. And like we talked about earlier, getting the platform woven into these other aspects of that, whether it be like equipment financing or all of the back office stuff or all of the other moving parts that go into the landscaping business, just slowly taking more of that into the platform is what we're going to spend the next 5 years doing.
With the background in finance, I don't say this often, but you're an investment banker's dream.
Well, we get a lot of them emailing us.
I imagine you do. And the less you respond, the better off you are.
Yeah, just keep on going down this path.
Yeah, you don't need. I mean, you would go to a C round and go public at some point with this idea. Again, it just ticks all the things that a pure entrepreneur and founder, I think, needs to look at. Well done, sir. This is really impressive stuff.
Well, Gary, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Our guest today has been Bryan Clayton. To say I'm a little envious would be an understatement, but I'm doing my own thing right now, which is not going to be as cool as what you're doing, but I think it's going to work. But again, Bryan's whole approach was find a problem and then get creative in how you can solve it. Anybody that thinks all the great ideas have been invented, you're just not paying attention. Bryan, thank you so much for joining us on If the Public Only Knew.
Gary, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to If the Public Only Knew. Don't forget to follow the show and share it with anyone who's ready for the real raw stories behind the business successes. Join Gary next time for another powerful conversation that will leave you inspired and ready to take action.